Today, we're looking at Krishna Bauhimia. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Krishna Bauhimia is a beautiful pink ink in their specialty series line of inks. Before we get to the writing samples, I'd like to look at the sciencey bits. Up first is chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies over the years. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink, straight into water, 10 to 15 seconds, and watch it creep up. What do we see? It's a nice light pink, it gets darker, and then it gets lighter again, but it's no other colors in here. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I put it into the water. I then let it in there for 10 to 15 seconds, and it looks exactly the same as the one that went straight in. This means I think it's going to clean out of pens with no issue, no problems. Now, resistance tests are done to see how this can be expected to hold up on the paper over time, but more importantly, how hard it might be to clean out of your pens. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before I test it. The highlighter definitely reactivated the ink, started to make it a bit fuzzy, but it didn't go crazy. This means I would not use this for note-taking where I need to highlight something, but if I had to highlight what was written with this ink, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Now, water reactivated and lifted most all of that ink. I think you could probably recover it and have a light pink left behind. Pen flush, on the other hand, got this interesting thing. It performed just like the water, but it got this yellow that kind of spread out from it, and I don't know where that yellow came from. I didn't see it at all in the chromatography. Bleach removes it from the page. You should not need to get to the pen flush or bleach in order to clean this from your pen. Now, this is a bell curve for normal distribution. For the 365 inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, and I've found that the realm of normal goes from 2.1 to 2.9. Now, Krishna's Bauhimia has a viscosity of 1.72. That means this is a wet ink, very wet. This is a bell curve showing the average dry times. For the 365 inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, and that the range of normal goes from 13 to 21 seconds. Krishna's Bauhimia has an average dry time of 7 seconds. It is certainly a fast drying ink. Now, how do I find my average dry time? I use my writing samples. I use the extra fine and the medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper, and I average all 6 of those dry times to come up with my dry time for this ink. Let's take a look at the writing sample. I got this ink in bottle form back when I made a big bulk order out of India. I'm sure they've come out with many more of these inks since, but I ordered a whole bunch in bottle form. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub. I'm using a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at Clairefontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. With the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, minor shading. Very minor. Wouldn't really call it shading. It might be a drier or wetter moment of the pen, like it looks like at the top of the eye that maybe I was lifting the pen a little bit. So I don't know that that's really shading of the ink or me writing, because I don't see it anywhere else. With the extra fine, I have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 4 seconds to dry. Very fast. That's pretty nice. Very fast. So, pretty good. And as pinks go, this is one of the nicest pinks to use. I've tested a bunch of pinks. I don't mind pink ink. It's just that when they're too light and I can't read them, it hurts my feelings. Because then it's like I'm avoiding a pink ink because I'm a guy. I don't mind pink ink. I think they're very nice on paper. I just have to be able to read them, and this one's nice. This is not too light, not too, just screaming in your face. But it's a nice pink. Medium. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Minor shading going on. 5 seconds to dry. When we look at the scrubby, we don't see shade in either scrubbies, and on the smear, you could recover this if you smeared it. Tomoe River. No bleeding, some ghosting, it's Tomoe River. With the 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. But look at that pink. Go with that pink. Extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 8 seconds. Same exact color that I got with the 1.1, and in the medium, 8 seconds to dry, and in the medium, it gets a little bit darker, which is something I like about this particular ink. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shading, 11 seconds to dry. When we look at the scrubby, we don't expect to be able to get much shading difference as we're writing, but that might be wrong. I'm not going to recover that smear. On to Rhodia. That spot has nothing underneath. That's me being sloppy. No bleeding, no ghosting. With the 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Extra fine. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 5 seconds to dry. With the medium, we get a darker color. I'm sorry. My mouth has been really dry today. And as I'm filming a couple of these writing samples at the same time, I went through the same thing in the last video. I need to take my drinks in between. With the medium, we get a little darker pink. Very nice. It starts to turn towards the magenta side, but I'm still going to go ahead and consider this a pink. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Some shading. Look at that jump. And that's about it here. My thumb. So we don't get it here. 7 seconds to dry. When we look at a scrubby, we see that we should get some shading with the extra fine. It does not show up as being there with the medium, and it looks recoverable. But here's the thing. I take these notes all the time on everything I'm doing. And this is all with the Noodler's NibCreaper. And we can see that depending on the nib you're choosing, you can make this have different shades while you're writing. All of this was written together. So I can go from lighter to a mid-tone to a darker, all by controlling my pressure to put more or less ink down. So while it wasn't showing here with the stiffer nibs, when I go to a flexier nib, and I know people don't want to call this flexy, but you can get a little flex out of this. When I use this, it comes out much nicer. So me, I say go with the flexier nib, get a little bit of color variation in that. It's kind of nice. I'm looking at the Hazel paper. The Hazel notebooks, I ordered a couple of them when I ordered ink. As it was coming all the way from India and was going to wait quite a while, this notebook I've only really just begun. The paper's nice. It's toothy. It performs well with their ink. Indian paper, Indian ink. I would expect it. On the Hazel paper, we have no bleeding. No real ghosting. So great for pocket notebooks. These are a great way to go. I've been incredibly impressed with their notebooks. Looking at the 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Pretty pink. Going on to the extra fine. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 1 second to dry. It went straight in that paper, and I hope I didn't just hit the red mark on that. I'm sorry for that. But look at that, 1 second to dry, and it didn't bleed. What a great performing paper. Totally underestimated. Nobody's paying attention to this paper. We should be looking at this paper. It just takes you 2 months to get it. When I look at the medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. I know it looks like there's some shade. There's my thumb spot. And that's where it gets a little bit lighter. 2 seconds to dry. When I look at the scrubbies, I do not expect to be able to get shading in this ink. And on a smear test, I would be able to read this. So here I'm looking at Canson Bristol board. I like doing art with ink. It's fun. It's a thick paper. So it's not going to come through unless I am somehow putting it crazy thick on there and making it come through. I've used it to practically paint ink onto, and it doesn't really bleed. It's just that it's so thick. It's the Bristol Vellum from Canson. So with the 1.1, no bleed, no bleed, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Straightforward. Same with the extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 4 seconds to dry, which is not too bad. With the medium, it gets a little bit darker a tone. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 5 seconds to dry. Now looking at the scrubbies, the extra fine, you do see from the very right to the very left some tone difference. So you would hope to get some shading in the writing, but it does not occur up here. But we did see that with my notes for it. So you can get shade. It's just not happening in this writing sample. The medium, I don't see any shade happening, and you could definitely recover this, although this is not a note-taking kind of thing. It's just a test I'm sort of used to doing, so it's on there. That's all I have for the writing sample. Instead of finding inks that look like Krishna's Bauhimia, I would prefer to find a nice ink to complement that pinky magenta color that it has. And I was thinking about a nice, rich purple. Robert Oster's Purple Soul, or Purple Jazz as it might be called, or have been called, or it went through a name change, something. Before I give my opinions on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, I would invite you to subscribe. Now, to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put that ink into a different pen and use that for a day. After that, I put it into a Noodler's NibCreaper to take my notes for this video. So what do I think of Krishna's Bauhimia? I think the color is fantastic. It doesn't shade. Different tones can be achieved through different nibs, different flows. But the individual pen on the paper, no shading. Beautiful color. So now the big question, would I buy a bottle of this ink in addition to the one that I have? I think I would. I think I might be willing to go through the inconvenience of getting it again, or be willing to pay the higher price for it because it is absolutely beautiful to look at. Thanks for watching.